October. It is officially spooky season, and with that spooky season, it's also time for some very heavy spooky book recommendations. I hope you like those. Maybe you already know some of these. Yeah, I have a bit of a strange taste, I would say, and I do believe in ghosts. So besides reading, watching BuzzFeed Unsolved Marathon is a common thing in my October routine. We're gonna start with something that's not really harmless, even though it's a children's book. Maybe some of you know Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I have a lot of Neil Gaiman books, and lots of those would fit the Halloween spooky season vibe. This edition in particular has really strange drawings. Like, okay, this is fine when you see this at night, late, before you go to sleep. But this is really terrifying. I don't want to spoil too much of the content, although I think many people already saw the stop-motion film by Tim Burton, which is chef's kiss itself. Yeah, so she moves into a new house, is disrupted, her parents are busy with moving and all this stuff going on, and she does not feel really accepted. So she goes out a lot on her own and explores the grounds and the gardens and everything, and she meets this little cat. And cats are just generally in mythology and stuff. They are also said to walk the several dimensions that exist, which is also the case in this book, because Coraline finds a door, and when her parents are there and they discover this door in the first place, it leads to nowhere. It just leads to another room, I think. Nothing else. But at night, something comes over. And when she crawls through this little door, she comes to this other world. So this little girl gets lured into this perfect world where everything is so much better than it is at home. But slowly she begins to realize that not everything is just as perfect as it seems, because her mother, or well, the mother on the other side, the other mother, she wants to sew buttons into her eyes, and as if that's not creepy enough, apparently she's some sort of demon who already killed a few children before her, and so Coraline now has to try and stop this. If you're reading this book, then it just gets more creepy than the film already is, because it's just such an innocent kind of children's book. And in the foreword, Neil Gaiman also writes, like, yeah, I wrote this for brave little children and brave little girls who are able to take on the world. And yeah, he did, but he also created something abominable with this other mother, and it will forever give me shivers down my spine. So from a very childish book, and actually, beside those creepy elements, a very light-hearted book. Honey, you know Carrie? So I found this at our local trade exchange bookshelf thing. I don't know, public bookshelf. Public bookshelf. I always wanted to read it just because I wanted to know the background, like the base of all those films and the whole pop culture around it. Even though Stephen King is like the king, haha, of horror literature, I really didn't like it. Well, maybe it's made to not be liked, but the problem for me is the description of Carrie, because she is a plus-sized woman or a plus-sized girl, and she is already bullied by everyone in her school, in her high school. As if that's not enough, she lives at home with her mother, who is very Christian and very religious, and she really doesn't approve of her daughter having like magical powers or supernatural powers. So not only is the mother scared of her daughter, but she's also very abusive, and Carrie just has no safe space. So me as a reader, I felt like I wanted to protect her, or at least like her a bit, but the way she's described with so many negative words, of course she is somehow the villain because she kills everyone in the town and in her high school, or a lot of people in her town and everyone in her high school. But that only happens because everyone is so mean to her and everyone is treating her so terrifyingly bad. So she's more of a victim, actually, and still, this does not come across like that. Generally, I do recommend it just to know what the base of all the films is like. Also, with all the films, why is Carrie always like a supermodel and she looks like the most beautiful being in her whole grade or something? And then everyone hates her? Not realistic. Also, why can you not cast a plus-sized woman? Yeah. So, fat phobia is a thing. And this is the German version, so I don't know if these words are so drastic and have such a grave meaning in the English version, but the words used in this show that Stephen King is not a fan of fat people, so I'm not a fan of his writing. I do have to say that I have... there it is. Yeah, I have The Shining on my reading list, which is why I didn't include this yet. But I'm curious to see if he might convince me otherwise. Generally, this was a hard time. Talking about classics, the most classic vampire book ever existing. I already did a short because I recently finished reading Dracula and it was not as good as this one. There were multiple reasons why I preferred Carmilla. Well, I read it first and it has a very more realistic way of writing the women, apart from the fact that Carmilla is like luring the female main character into a romantic or very close friendship relationship. But honestly, I would say this is a very lesbian book. Like, they're smooching a lot. Also, this is very, very pretty. Dracula, on the other hand, you can read Dracula. It's your choice. It was also good to know this classic one, just to have read it and to know what it's about and its structure. But this one inspired Dracula, and it was just way nicer to read. Dracula was fun in the beginning, I have to say that, because in the beginning, Count Dracula in his castle with his guest, and his guest telling his wife, fiancée, telling her via letters and only letters that it is such a strange man and what he does every day, and that he just climbs out the window and climbs down the outer wall of this castle. This is fun. This is really funny, actually. But then, when Van Helsing came up, like, he cannot shut up. I wished at times that, please, can someone just kill this character, that I'm relieved of him, but no. But no. He is supposed to be the hero of the story. His monologues were way too long. This just made me aggressive as hell. This does not happen in this book. Also, she has a place in my heart just because it plays in Styria, and they also come by near Graz, I think. And that is the place where I did my European-sponsored gap year. So that is a plus point, and I have to give that to Dracula. They couldn't have done that because I have never been in Romania, but who knows? Maybe I will go there. Still, no excuse for the role of the women, because in Dracula, everyone is just diminished who is female, and the men eventually resolve the vampiric problem, and the women are just like trophies and objects to have a motivation to kill the vampire, but they would not be really necessary for the book. I really recommend Carmilla if you want to read a classic vampire novel, but we will now leave the supernatural side and come to a more murderous or humanly murderous side, which is this fella I just recently bought. I know that Danielle Valentine has another book which I would like to read, because this one I read this in like 1 or 2 days. If I had the time, or if I had the time, I would have read this in one. Well, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it was very good in sense of causing excitement and wanting to read on. It is something for fans of Friday the 13th, I would say, because it has to do with a camp as well. And in this camp, like some 20 or 10 or something years ago, there was a murderer with a witch's mask, and we also get reading the perspective of one of the murdered people in the introduction. And then we switch to the daughter of the family who owned this camp back then and who now still owns it, and now the sister of this woman or this young girl wants to open the camp again. So it is like a town myth that this witch will return whenever someone wants to go back to the camp. Just people knitting some theories. And we have two perspectives. One of Olivia, who is the daughter of the family who owned the camp, and Regan, who is the daughter of the woman who was accused of being this murderous witch. And they actually meet. I don't want to spoil too much, but they look exactly alike, so they are probably twins. And this really kept me going because I cannot stop thinking when I read a murder book or a mystery book or something like that. I have to know by myself, by my own thoughts, who it was and why and what the connections are. So I was trying to figure out who maybe is the actual mother, or maybe who is the real family, and why is that. So this was keeping me going all the time. I just wanted to know more about this family structure, which is really fucked up, I have to say, and why this witch is murdering, because she is coming back. She came back, and she is now, while they are, this is playing in one day and one night, while they are trying to reopen the camp, the witch is coming back and murdering people. These two, Olivia and Regan, and their friends, two of their friends, are now chased by this witch, and they have to survive, and well, each of them is in love with the other friend, with the friend of the other one. So we have Regan being a queer person, and Olivia then falling in love with the very masculine guy. This representation I liked, but the problem is that they are just so stupid. They are just dumb. They think, because they look alike, that the friends they are in love with are in love with the other person. It's hard to explain, but that's basically why I did not really like the characters too much, but I would still give it a 4 out of 5. So if you're looking for something into the horror movie, serial killer region, then this is actually a good one. But now we come to two of my favorites, which are graphic novels or comic novels. And these are both by Sarah Andersen, who you might know from Sarah Scribbles. I also have one of these here, but I don't want to dig around in my completely overly filled bookshelf. I'm glad that she stands like this. So I would like to start with Fangs. This is the German version, but it's also available in English, of course. It's about a vampire girl and a werewolf boy, and they are falling in love. Their life is described, and it has really pretty pictures. It's also really funny, like it has little comics and stuff. It's just very wholesome. This is too cute. It also convinced me because the vampire is more into the gothic vibe and the old base of vampirism, and then the werewolf is more like the wild one, a little more casual, and it's just wholesome to look at their relationship. Too cute. I really recommend this one. This is also very beautiful from the outside. Then we have the Cryptid Club. This is also very cool because these ghosties, they glow in the dark. The Cryptid Club consists of people or beings like, for example, Slender Man, or just common ghosts, or aliens, or the Mothman, or like just generally beings of urban scary myths. They are just fun to observe. because they are settled into what if they actually existed and what would happen if they interacted, for example, things they have in common. There are just these little comics consisting of 4 pictures or just one big picture like on this page with not much saying, but enough to see, and it's just really amusing, fun time. It's also worth maybe a small Halloween gift for a friend. Technically, every creepy book is a good gift for a friend for Halloween. So after this fun, we are now getting into the actually more serious creepy area. Like, for example, Morbid Curiousities. This one is insanely amazing because this is like a record or a documentation book about people's preferences and collections and which strange things people in different parts of the world have in their collections. A lot of bones are in here. There are also realistic pictures and descriptions of the people and where they live, why they are collecting these things. I think this one's okay. Like, you can see some bones. People are collecting a lot of bones. But also, for example, Ouija boards or other games that enhance the spiritual connection, as well as murder weapons or things serial killers made. For example, this painting up here, which was made by John Wayne Gacy, I think when he was already in prison. So this really interesting collection of collections stuck with me, and I really look at it more often because I just find it so interesting what people want to educate about and what they want to have in their lives constantly. These collections of the unknown and the bizarre is definitely a big favorite of mine. And for the last one, we have 2 of the most famous people investigating paranormal activities and ghosts and stuff. Ed and Lorraine Warren. Just a record as well of all of the most important or most famous cases they had. For example, Annabelle is in here, or the case that inspired the Conjuring films. They have some pictures in here as well. And when I bought this book, I just realistically wanted to know what they found out, not via some Hollywood films who take the truth and pull it apart a bit further to make it more shocking and more appealing to horror film fans. Though, if you're having fun with it, have fun with it. If you're believing in ghosts or not, or if you're believing in demons or not, I think that the way they discovered these secrets and discovered these cases is interesting to see. Even if it's an unusual way, it is still a very interesting book and a nice read for a rainy afternoon. So for fans of the films based on these findings, maybe it's even more interesting because now you can read about what actually happened and read about the base of it, why it developed into that way, why we have these stories in the first place. Give it a try. I hope you liked my recommendations. Maybe you will read some of those. This is heavy, I have to put it back. And otherwise, I hope you're having a nice Halloween, a nice spooky season. Maybe go take some ghost pictures. I did that last week, that was fun. So I hope you're having a nice day, or a nice night, who knows. Yeah, goodbye.